Today is the 9th anniversary that I lost my youngest son, Brad. And for those of you who have lost someone, you know that usually a few weeks before that anniversary, you get a little bit of anticipatory grief. And it's just that creeping feeling of knowing what's coming and basically reliving that day that's so painful. But today we decided to take a break and go and celebrate life and celebrate Brad's life by visiting this Japanese garden in our hometown. And some of the significance of that is in the house I lived in with Brad, we had a Japanese garden that my parents had put in, and Brad and I modified it. And it was something that he and I did together, and it brought us a lot closer, and was something that whenever I looked at that garden, it reminded me of Brad. So today, that's what I'm doing. I'm going through the Japanese gardens, and I'm thinking about Brad and the time that we put that Japanese garden together at my parents' backyard, and just being inspired to do something that will also help me do something to celebrate Brad's life going forward. I like how it's shaped kind of like an umbrella. These long hanging leaves. It's really pretty. Being at the gardens gave me inspiration to go home and try to make a little spot in my patio where I could put in a fountain and make it feel very zen and a place that I could celebrate Brad's life. I'm just using an old plant stand like this square one you see here and a square planter, and I took a cork and put it in here to plug up the hole because this is going to hold some of the water obviously that I need for the fountain, and this is just the bottom portion of my fountain, and then I put another pot on top that has a hole in it. There. Hello. He's looking for his food because I moved everything because I'm redoing my fountain. He's confused. All right, I'm going to use these ceramic pot feet to put in the bottom of the big bowl. Because that cork sticks up a little bit, it means that the top pot won't be very stable. So this is going to give me enough rise to get that pot on there and keep it stable. And then I can put some prettier rocks around it to make it look really nice. This will keep that pot from hitting that cork and making it unstable. I have a much more stable base for the next pot. So I've been using this pump for years. You can see it's really old. The tubing is dirty, and I think it's dirty in here too. So I'm gonna scrub it out with this little bottle brush, the little brush cleaner, and see if I can get some better flow before I hook the pump back up. The pump actually looks pretty clean. So I'm just gonna put this back on here. All right, now this pump sits down in the bottom here. All right, so now I have hooked the pump up to the tube that goes into this. This pump will go down in the bottom because that's where all the water will be. So I'll put this down in and set some rocks on top of it to keep it down in the water. All right, before I set everything back up, I need to make sure that pump works, but I got the plug wet. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna trip the breaker, but let's give it a shot. Right, it's working, but as you can see, the water is shooting out past the fountain, so I have to adjust it. Now you can see the fountain water is going back into the pot so it can recycle, and it's not just going outside of the pot here. I have this irrigation system that I put on last year. It's set up to go to a 1/4-inch hose, so that's going to allow me to set up the drip to water these plants as well as give water to the fountain so it doesn't run out. We have a power strip that runs under the door here, so that's where we're plugging in some strip lights, and this is power to the fountain, which runs up along behind here and allows the pump to work for the fountain. So now I can leave it like this, or I can add rocks and things like that to it to give it a little bit more of texture and make it look a little more, like a fountain. So I'm going to do that next. There's some splashing going on here, and that's okay because I'm going to have plants sitting around here, and this is going to give them a little bit of water during the day as well. So I placed a big rock here at the bottom just to make sure that pump stays down and doesn't start floating up. If the water gets really low, it'll keep it down at the bottom. In order for me to keep the mosquitoes from breeding in that pond, I use this, which is mosquito dunks, but they come in this plastic bag, but that dissolves, and you can see all these little beads here. This will clog up the fountain. So I've taken an old jewelry bag, like one of those nylon jewelry bags, and I put that in here. As you can see, it's old. I need to put a new one in. I'll clean this out. But what this will do is keep this from clogging up my fountain and still allow the, I guess, Barry, it's a bacteria that gets in the water that kills the mosquito larva, and it doesn't harm birds or the hummingbirds or the bees. And I've had these in here for years and everything's fine. So using this little jewelry bag helps a lot because it just keeps all of this little granular stuff from getting caught in the fountain filter. And I'm just going to put a rock over this just to keep it on the bottom so you don't see it floating around. All right, you can hear that it's changed. So I've changed it a little bit. I've angled the smaller pot more toward the back so that the water spills more into the larger pot on the bottom so I hear more water sound. So I think that'll be a little bit nicer. If you don't want as much water sound, there's a couple things you can do. You can turn a little dial on the fountain down a little bit so there's not as much water coming through, or you can put some rocks or things like that there so that it kind of breaks the fall of the water. So I'm going to do that just to see what it sounds like. And if I like it, leave it. If not, I will take the rocks back out. Right, as you can see here, putting those rocks in there dramatically changed the sound. It also created a little more splash, which isn't bad for me because again, using the splash to water some plants. All right, I'm changing it again. I just want your opinion, so let me know. Now I'm taking the smaller rocks out. The sound is less, the look is different. Let me show you what I've done. Put a much larger rock in here because I thought the look might be better than a bunch of small rocks, and it just gives it a little more texture. It does create a lot more splash, which I think will be good for the plants around it in case I can't get all the drip to all the plants. All right, I have gone back and forth for the last 10 minutes. Rocks or no rocks? I want your opinion. If you would just rather have water and no rocks and you like that sound, or having the rocks, does it add texture and break the sound down a little bit? Can you leave me a comment and let me know what is your preferred style? All right, so this is what I have so far. It's 3 larger rocks here that I think give it a little bit of texture, kind of break up the blue a little bit, I think is nice. It did change the sound, it did change the splash, but yeah, I'm just torn between having no rocks or having rocks. All right, let's take a final look at my little corner ambiance spa area of my patio. I think Brad really would have enjoyed the Japanese garden tour, and I know he would have helped me put this fountain area together and enjoyed it with me. So now when I look out here, this will be a spot that I will think of him and enjoy a peaceful time and wonderful memories of my beautiful son.